This is the Art of Network Engineering podcast. In this podcast, we'll explore tools, technologies, and talented people. We aim to bring you information that will expand your skill sets and toolbox and share the stories of fellow network engineers.
Welcome to the Get to Know Your Co-Host section of the show, where we try to put the proper words and phrases together to do some justice to describe one of your beloved A1 co-hosts. All right, folks, he's dapper, hardworking, one heck of a dad, and I hear he knows his way around a driveway basketball court. His hobbies include long walks in small circles with a pair of tongs around a smoker, daily tea parties, and lengthy banter with Howdy Packet. He's still not sure whether or not Tim actually likes him. You guessed it, we're talking about Andy Lapteff. Join Andy and his co-hosts on this week's episode of The Art of Network Engineering.
I thought you were talking about... No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Tim. I feel like it's been so long since I've heard a Tim intro. That was so nice to have a Tim intro.
Mm-hmm.
I am AJ Murray at No Blinky Blinky, and I am very excited to welcome a new co-host to the team at Track It Pixar. Lexie, welcome.
Hey.
Yeah.
Winning.
Thank you so much for the goat scream. I feel like a real part of the team now. That's all I was waiting for. I'm excited to be here. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much.
The goat scream is like the equivalent of, smashing a bottle of champagne against the hull of a boat when it gets ready to launch.
That's what it felt like. It really felt like, let's get this thing done. The maiden voyage. We're going off to explore the world.
I love it. I love it. Or outer space.
That's not how I feel. I don't feel the same way, but I like your enthusiasm.
Keep it down, Leprechaun.
Oh man,
Sorry.
That was a little sad, Tim.
All right. So he is at Tim Bertino on the Twitters. Tim, how you doing?
I'm excellent, AJ. Hope everybody's doing well. I'll echo it. Lexie, I know we've said it before, but it's great to have you here. You've been part of multiple shows now, and everything's gone really well, especially hosting the Women in Tech podcast. And you've got this energy and following on socials, and it's great to bring that into the show. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Tim.
And Dan, howdy Packet. Howdy Dan. How you doing?
Howdy, AJ. So I'm doing wonderful, just to get that out of the way. And I also have an announcement to make.
Special news from Dan.
Sorry. How long is that drum roll going?
The worst drum roll ever.
It's impressive. I'm not even mad.
Yeah. So we have baby number 2 on the way.
All right. Congratulations.
Yay.
So going to be a papa again.
Oh,
Excellent.
Daggum Papa.
Daggum papa.
Any other details to share yet?
Nope.
Okay.
Whoa.
Human.
Yes.
It is a human. We verified.
I was going to ask, is it a human or a packet? I wasn't, just.
Yeah, it's not a packet.
Not a packet.
I'm not sure how to
Is
create
it a frame?
Oh God.
Well, that's fantastic news. Congratulations to you and your wife, awesome. Dan. That's great.
Thank you.
Can't wait to meet Howdy Packet Junior. Howdy Packet the third.
Fragment.
Oh yeah, Fragment. Yeah. There we go.
All right.
We'll take it.
But they're discarded sometimes.
Yeah, you're right. It did kind of sound like an insult. I didn't mean that. I'm sorry.
Fragment sounds a little sad.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was terrible. How could I have said that?
We can cut it out, Tim. It's all right.
Packet's a cute little nickname, though.
Thank you.
Little
Fragment,
Packet. Yeah. There's a little Packet crawling around.
Little Packet. I like it.
Learn how to walk.
Got a nickname and they're not even born yet. Gotta love it.
Until you got to change their packet.
It sounds like a Schoolhouse Rock song.
You can discard that one.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's full of runt frames and not jumbo frames.
Oh God. Yeah.
Totally just normal frames.
And last but not least, Andy Lapteff at Andy Lapteff. You can find him on Permit IP Andy. No, Permit IP Andy.com. Too many Andys. How you doing, Andy? That was kind of your cue.
I wasn't sure if you were done rambling. I'm good.
No, I'm done.
You look like you have more. I'm good. Tim called me dapper, and that just made my day. So I can't beat that. That's the highlight of my day, unfortunately.
See, your hair always looks the way that it does, and I have to put on my leprechaun hat so you don't have to look at my hair. So you get that name.
You look great, Tim. I could never pull that hat off, but you're just killing it too.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
What's new in Andy's world?
Man, I don't know where to start. A lot of good stuff. I'm in a new world, and I like it.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to get to more of that here in a sec. So, but before we do that, let's get to some wins. Love that scream. All right.
If you can't tell, he's been waiting to do that for a while.
Right.
Yeah. It's only been a few months.
Winning in our Discord channel this week is Tata the Automator. They were offered a new position as a network engineer. Congratulations.
Nice.
Dude, that guy's been killing it lately.
Yeah. The slope there is just ridiculous.
He's on fire, and he gave a shout out that his physical lab made a big difference in his
I
interview.
saw
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Take that.
Did he tag you?
Yeah.
He did.
He did.
Nice.
Yeah, he did.
He
I
shouted
mean, I'm
out
not
to
looking
Andy.
for credit, but just, it worked for him. It helped. It helped him, right?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Makes you
And
proud,
yeah.
huh?
I want to let the new people know that, that's how you get experience, right?
Right.
That lab.
Yep.
River passed the Aviatrix Certified Engineer and Multi-Cloud Networking Associate. Congratulations, River.
Nice. Good
That's
job.
a popular one. I'm seeing
It was
that
good.
one pop up a lot.
It was good to see River take like a 3-day break around the holidays before he
Ramping it up
continued on.
again.
Oh, man.
Stephen McNutt passed the Emerging Tech in Cybersecurity course 8 days into the semester. That's pretty crazy. That's
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dang.
8 days in, pass the class, get it out of the way. Why not?
Bam.
All right.
Ganesh was promoted to a senior network engineer position. Congratulations, Ganesh.
Excellent.
Yay.
Nice. Congrats.
Peter Hunt got their first job in tech at Spectrum. Congratulations for breaking in.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool.
Get some good internets.
New name on the list this week, Adil Khan recertified their CCE App DS, which is the Citrix certified expert in app delivery and security. Congratulations, Adil.
Never heard of
Never
him.
heard of him. It's never on the list.
Must be new.
Do you only have one for this year so far, Adil? I'm a little disappointed.
Oh, damn.
We're already a couple weeks into the new year.
Yeah. Why don't you at least have 3? I'm just saying.
Congrats, Adil. Awesome.
No, that's awesome.
And Mike V2 was promoted to manager of network services at his job. Congratulations, Mike. That's great.
Nice.
I love his username.
Lots of promotions lately. It's like everyone's getting promoted at the beginning of the year. It's funny that last year ended with a ton of certifications. So many people passed certs before the end of the year. I don't know if it was like the month was slow at work, so people took the time to study, or they were just trying to cram in those goals at the last minute. But
Or everybody's boss said, you better pass this cert if you want to get your promotion.
there we go. That's what it looks
And then
like.
they all got promoted. Yeah.
There you go.
It works out.
New Patreons joining us this week. We got Show CDP Neighbor, Adam Hoyt. I think I screwed that up. And Jeffrey V. Thank you so much for your support of what we do here at the Art of Network Engineering. And
Appreciate
just
it.
a couple of extra pieces of errata. We are doing our listener survey right now. We could really use your help with the feedback. We get the information from you. We share that with potential sponsors. We learn how you consume our content, and we want to know what you want to see and hear from us in the future. So please take some time to do the listener survey. You can find a link for that in the show notes or the description of the video. And we were named finalists for the Cisco IT Blog Awards. Congratulations, everybody.
Hey.
So what does that mean? That means you need to go vote. You can find a link in our show notes. Again, you can go and vote for all of your favorite content creators. A ton of people made the finalist list this year. But very happy that the Art of Network Engineering is on there. If you like what we're doing, please give us a vote. We'd appreciate that.
Can we get little I voted a for A1 stickers?
Oh, so cute. Yes.
That'd be great. Just like the paint palette and it says I voted on it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
that. We're going to have to drop that up.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Excellent. Well, I think it's time to do a show.
Yes.
So, Andy, you've been through quite a journey the past couple of months, and it's been interesting because we've kind of been along the ride with you, right, since the whole process started, and so we'd like to go back in time a little bit and have you walk us through the transition from your old job to your new job, and I guess I'd like to start with how are things going at the new job, and let's go back and kind of start. Why did you feel like it was time to move on?
Yeah. The new job is going great. What did I do today? I was working, it's funny when I hear myself say stuff, I'm like, really? That's me? So today I was working on trying to build a dev environment in our lab. Let's just take a moment and realize that Andy, Mr. I can't stand Python, automation is hell. This is awful what's happening to network engineers. I reached out to Eric Joe and John Capobianco on the side and asked them some questions like, hey, I got to get, an environment in here. I can play around with some Python in our lab. And I wasn't really sure how to do it. And another guy on my team was doing it a different way. So I couldn't really, bug him. So anyway, I'm building dev environments. What? Not really, right? I just got to get some Linux stuff going on a server, but,
New Year, new Andy.
yeah. But it's going really well. I'm meeting a lot of people. They're all super smart. They're all super nice. And working at a vendor is, see, it might be annoying this whole episode. I'm trying to choose my words carefully because I don't, I really like it so far. Granted, I've been there 2 weeks, right? So talk to me 12 months from now and I might be like, dear God, but,
what have I done?
Yeah. So it's really cool to be, I guess, on the other side of the table, maybe. I don't know what metaphor to use, but I've been a consumer of, I've worked on probably almost every vendor's gear in my relatively short career. So to be on the other side and to be in meetings and to see roadmaps and things that the public doesn't even know about yet, that's kind of exciting, right? Wow, this thing sounds amazing and nobody outside of this org even knows about it yet. That feels kind of neat.
You spent years eating the sausage. Now you get to see how the sausage is made.
Yeah, kind of,
Great analogy.
Now are you grossed out? Or?
Yeah.
No. So that's part, I think, of why I'm just so excited because I'm like, whoa, this, you kind of get a peek behind the curtain. There's people on calls who have been working with customers for, months about features that the customer asked for. And then they went and worked with a whole team to build and test and get those features working. And, now they're talking about, releasing that version. When we're in prod and we're working on stuff and you have to upgrade your code, off a bug or a new feature or whatever, I had never once contemplated that there's just whole hordes of people at vendors spending countless hours working on that, creating that, fixing the bug or adding a feature and testing and just, I don't know. It's just kind of neat. My mind's a little blown right now by the whole process, but the culture is great. I really, I have a lot to say about it. So maybe as we get into the timeline, we can flesh some of it out.
Yeah, I think one thing I want to interject here for a second is, what was your first job in IT?
I was pulling wires on a Verizon central office frame.
So you went from a cable guy,
even before cable guy, like that was cable
like
guy
a
was like
layer one
a
structured cable.
yeah, like it was called a frame attendant. So
a frame attendant. Okay.
Yeah. So if you,
dude, that sounds fancy.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds cool.
Did you have to wear like white gloves?
I was just gonna wear the white gloves.
nah,
Oh yes, let me take your frame, please.
I had a little tool.
Do you have a reservation?
I had a little tool belt and this little zippy thing, and so I'm learning about right now. I'm learning about Clo architecture, and it all for like spine leaf and fabrics and stuff.
Is it pronounced Clo?
It is. He was French. It's spelled. It's spelled.
I've been saying it wrong all these years.
Everybody
Yeah.
has. So have I. I'm glad I don't say it very often, but I've been saying it wrong as well.
But the reason I bring that up is he was working for the phone companies. It was a telecom thing in the 50s that he did, and there were these metal crossbars that they build in these central offices to connect. Your house has a telephone pole with a wire connected to it for your phone, and then it goes to the central office where it connects to all the other houses. And this metal crossbar was the way, it was like old school switching, how you connect Dan's house to AJ's house physically with copper connections in the central office so that your two houses can connect and talk to each other. And that was Clo designed all that non-blocking, redundant switching architecture based on physical metal bars. So anyway, this is just some of the stuff that I'm learning just now in this job. Like I have to learn fabric. Well, who's Clo and what's this and telecom? And so my first job was a frame attendant in a central office where metal crossbars were used, that this guy Clo said, well, how are we going to scale this? So, but that was my first job and it was for like $11 an hour. I should probably level set us, right? So you have somebody like AJ who like went to school for computer science and got expected jobs that a computer science guy would get. I mean, we did the old school episode, remember, like our crappy jobs, but before, but once you got that degree, AJ, it seemed like a path, right? Like you got tech jobs, and I mean, Tim, right? You were like a computer science major, give or take, and you.
Not a very good one. But
what? And
hey, what do they call doctors that pass with C's?
Thank you, Dan. They are still doctors.
They call them doctors.
I think the reason that I resonated so heavily with Lexie's story was because I had a complete life/career reboot at like 32. So, I was like 32 and I had no money, a ton of debt, no real job. Like I went to school and I got some jobs in sales and marketing and they didn't work out, and a couple personal issues I had. I was 32 years old and I just had to completely reboot my life. I did move home for a year, Lex, like you mentioned that too. So like when you were telling that story, it really hit home. So the reason I mentioned that, AJ, is because, that was 15 years ago, right? Now everybody knows how old I am. Great. But in 15 years, I went, Dan, in 15 years though, I went from a guy with no money, a ton of debt, and just having, not really, I wasn't succeeding, right? Like I wasn't the guy you wanted your daughter to marry. and well, whatever, pick a metaphor, right? But it just,
did your father-in-law tell you that?
No. Well, I wasn't winning, right? But
sounds like you got some stories behind that one.
But I say that to say that I can't believe. I always assumed that like when I saw successful people in life, they always were. And like, oh, well, they grew up in a good family and they got a good education and they got this good job and that's why they're in tech and like and through the show, we've really learned that there are 100 different, 1,000 different ways to get there. But I feel like when you start from zero at 32, for me, it means even more because I can't believe where my life and career has come since then, because that was the darkest time of my life and this is the best time of my life. And it's just been such a crazy, wild ride. I mean, I was making $6 an hour cutting lunch meat at a supermarket, right around just because I needed a job. And and now here I am just at a dream job, doing dream things, making dream money. And I just pinch myself every day. Like, how did this all happen? So just for some context, like at 32, I legit had nothing career-wise, financially, life, like things weren't going good for Andy. My starting point was at 0, right? It wasn't it's been a long, hard climb, I think, to get to where I am. Yeah. So I think that context is important, because without it, it's hard to really get a sense of how excited and grateful I am for this life, because this was all out of my reach. By the time you're 32, you're supposed to have your shit together, right? Like, you are.
That is a myth. That is a myth. It is a lie.
Right, but you believe it. I did. Like, what am I doing wrong? Because everybody I grew up with, they went to college, they got married, they got houses, they had good careers. And I'm like, why isn't this happening for me? Like, what am I doing wrong?
Well, I'll say I turned 32 this weekend, so I don't have much time left to get my shit together.
Dan is on the clock.
It's like, oh,
Dan,
shit.
But that's exactly my point. Like, I know what you do for a living, and you're killing it and deploying ACI. And, and at 32, I had nothing. And it was my own doing and some personal problems. But like, dude, you're just killing it. So anyway, that was my first job. That was a long way to get there, Dan. But my first job was at a central office pulling wires from one crossbar to another crossbar, so that somebody that moved into a house could, you call the phone company, you get a phone number, and they have to actually physically connect you at the switch.
Yeah. I gotcha.
For $11 an hour.
So what I was getting at is, you started at, a frame attendant or whatever. Okay. A frame attendant. And, now you're a product manager, right?
Yes.
Isn't that your title? Product manager for Juniper. So it's like, that's crazy.
For the cloud ready data center. So all the data center stuff, it's so cool. And what I really love about the culture too is I was hired as a product manager, but a big part of the reason I think I was brought in was because of my recent end user experience. Like, as someone who has been consuming these products for about 8 years in prod, my experience and my opinions have value to people who are, creating products and just making decisions on features and what do we want to do? How do we want to do it? Even the other day we're talking about this really cool piece of software I'm excited about. And I find myself sitting there in my head poking holes in it. So like, even in my head, I'm like, well, because we've all been there, right? You're sitting in the room, the vendor comes in, we're going to make all your, your dreams come true.
Let me wave my little wand here.
And then, a lot of times they don't, right? Or it doesn't. Right. So as I'm sitting,
they just don't deliver it as it was, as they sold it.
Yeah.
Right?
And
that kind of thing.
Right. So as I'm sitting there talking about this product, learning it, seeing it, I think it's really valuable that I've been on the other side of that table as the engineer, because I'm telling them like, well, listen, if I was sitting there and you're telling this stuff to me, here's the first 3 things I'm going to throw at you. I'm starting to shoot some arrows across the table. Like, well, because I know I'm going to be responsible for this darn thing in prod, and I see some issues, right? Potential issues. So, I think that bringing technical people who've done the job into a vendor to help make the products better, it makes a lot of sense to me. And I was kind of surprised to hear that in general, I don't think that's like a really big thing. Like, I don't know if there's a ton of network engineers working on the network platforms at, at vendors. I know they are at Juniper because I'm surrounded by them, but yeah,
that does surprise me. But I don't,
and again, I'm so new, I don't know anything, right? But I guess it would be really easy to pay Gartner $1 million for them to tell you what the market wants and needs, and then you just go develop it without ever talking to an engineer or network person, right? Like, I mean, you could do that. Yeah. I mean, that's why,
like customers.
Yeah,
people
that's
that
why
actually use your product.
That's why those people get paid so much. We'll go out, we'll find out what the customers want. Give us $1 million, we'll come back, let you know, and you go build it. So anyway.
But not everybody has an Andy. But I do, joking aside, there's, to your point, Andy, there's incredible value there, because they can bring you into product meetings, give you pitches on things, and you can do what you said. You can ask all the questions, you can shoot holes through it that the customers are going to do, and they get that from internal to the organization, so they can tweak a lot of that before they even put it in front of customers, and they do it
better. Yeah, it's only going to make them and the product better.
It's incredibly valuable,
which I think is pretty smart. And we're going to talk about him, but the gentleman who brought me in, Mike Bouchang, this is his jam. He has been building this team for years and bringing in lots of different smart people into his organization because, and his results speak for themselves. He's been doing really well, bringing in lots of different smart people and putting them all together and having them collaborate. Like I've never, again, I haven't been there long, but just the synergy of like all these smart people with all these different like varied backgrounds and skill sets that are all kind of working on the same thing. It just, and maybe because I've been siloed for so long, like you said, Dan, like for years, I was just a WAN guy working on a WAN team. You know, we barely talked to the LAN guys. And like, I'm just used to being so focused on a narrow area and going deep in it that now it's so wide and big. And, you know, they're telling me like, listen, if you see something, like keep meeting people. And if somebody's working on something that you're interested in, help out, chip in, get in there. It's not just like, hey, these are the 3 products that we're responsible for, and this is all you're going to do, and you need to hyper focus. It's this really nice broad, you know, how can...
That's a sign of a good place to be. They're encouraging you to learn whatever you're interested in.
Yeah, I've never experienced anything like it. It's very...
You were told this is what you're going to learn now.
It's awesome.
At least in the past.
This is what we need, right? And so, you know, I don't know if I want to tell you, I don't know when, I want to tell you the discussion I had with this guy, Mike.
Hey, A1 fans, AJ here for NetAlly. Never heard of NetAlly? Sure you have. They came from the same group of engineers that brought us network tools from Fluke Networks, NetScout, and now they're NetAlly. They know networking. I'm a network engineer for a partner, and when I go to customers and see they use NetAlly, I know it's going to be so much easier to troubleshoot issues we might run into. The name may have changed to NetAlly, but the way they build tools hasn't changed a bit. They ask, what would a network engineer want to help make their job faster and easier, and then they go build it, just like this Etherscope NXG. NetAlly is here to help. NetAlly, simplicity, visibility, collaboration. Visit netally.com today. Now back to the show.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back a little bit first before we get into this. So I'm thinking, you know, we were working at your old job, and if you followed along with the podcast, everybody was kind of aware that, you know, you used to work in FinTech. You were a network engineer. You focused more on WAN and data center, bringing up circuits, doing maintenance, the whole nine. And so what was it that kind of triggered you to say, okay, I think I've had enough here. Maybe it's time to look for a new opportunity?
Yeah.
Because, and I ask you that only to say, like, I think a lot of people want to know, like, what was it that caused you to decide, like, hey, I'm working at this great place. I you know, make decent money. I get good benefits. Like, what is the tipping point that causes somebody to say, I need to look for something else? And so I'm curious, what was that for you? Because it's going to be different for everybody.
It's a really good question.
Do you want me to tell you?
Well,
because I know.
Well, so it gets kind of deep, right? Because again, going back to the 32-year-old guy who just had no clue how to live as an adult, like, I've always had this sense of like every accomplishment that I had was somehow a mistake, and that it was maybe going to go away at any moment. It's basically the definition of imposter syndrome in one sense or another. Like my accomplishments weren't earned. I somehow got lucky, and someday it's all going to go away. Now,
right.
So I share that to say that, you know, I can stay in a not ideal situation for a long time, and longer than I probably should, because there's a core belief, which I'm working on, which is that, you know, this is the last job I'll ever get, or I couldn't possibly do better, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So I probably should have moved on earlier. COVID made it kind of confusing because when COVID hit, our lives got a lot harder when the kids came home and the workload didn't abate. So for somewhere between a year and a half, all the suffering I felt I was under, I was kind of blaming on COVID. Like, well, the kids are home and I'm under this enormous workload. And, once the kids go back, what I kept telling myself is once the kids go back to school, I'll finally stop feeling like I had a physical pain in my body every day when I'd start work.
Oh my gosh.
And that's just right. Like I wound up with health problems, like from the amount of stress that I was under. I had never had a migraine in my life. And I got a month-long migraine during the whole COVID crazy, dude, it was awful. And I had to get brain scans and medicine. Like I just could not, if you've ever had a headache, it's like 10 times worse. And it lasted for a month. So
wow.
So honestly, like that, once I was able to get out of that and consequently now I'm prone to migraines. Like I had never had one until my 40s. And now it's like a thing. I got to watch my stress and exercise and watch what I eat and all that. So here I am, right? Like I work myself so hard and stress myself out so much that now I have a new health thing that I got to manage, right? So, there's
it's not worth it, is it?
Right? Like
you learned that lesson.
Yeah. So
I've also been there.
I got the job when I got the job at Comcast as a cable guy. It was a really big deal for me and it was more money and I saw career progression and we've talked about that before. I maxed out and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I'm beating up my body. I'm not making enough. I had just met my wife at the time and I'm like, I got to get my act together. Like she's got a good education, a good career. And like, I'm climbing ladders, risking my life every day for $50,000 a year, which is nothing to sneeze at, but like, it wasn't enough for what I was going through. Like every day, everybody you talk to hating you because of the company you worked at. Like just, it's just death of a thousand cuts, right? So
yike.
When I got my CCNA and got a job at the NOC, I was like, all right, this is great. But it wasn't for a ton more money. It was, I think it was like another $10,000 a year, which was nice, but it was super stressful.
Yeah.
And, the sky is falling all the time at a NOC. And, we were national.
Well, and you were working overnight too.
I started on mids. I couldn't sleep for a year.
Yeah.
That was awful. So, but again, well, I can't go back to being a cable guy. I got to make this work, blah, blah, blah. So, when I got the FinTech offer, and I'll tell you this, like, I have somehow doubled my income twice in 8 years. Now, I haven't met anybody yet that has said something like that to me. Like, so I'm not saying I have it figured out or there's some kind of secret to like doing that. But when I went from Comcast to FinTech, I doubled my income and that was huge. But it was very, very risky because Comcast is one of those places you can work for the rest of your life. You'll never get fired. It's stable.
Oh, sure. Huge company.
You get free cable, which I like to remind you every 5 minutes. Like,
Well, that's worth all the pain and suffering.
Well, don't fall off that ladder because you won't have free internet anymore.
I got hurt. So here's why did I leave FinTech for where I'm at now? The reason I left the field and got my CCNA was because I got hurt and I wound up in workers' comp.
Yeah.
And the company doctor told me I better learn how to do my job with one hand because he was sending me back to work.
Yeah, I remember that.
I climbed ladders in traffic with 50 pounds of gear on me. OSHA requires 3 points of contact with ladders when you're climbing. And he told me, you better learn how to do your job with one hand. So that was a pivot moment for me in life. Like, they don't care about me. I'm just a number. I need to make a change. So fast forward, CCNA, NOC, a little bit more money, but not that much. But the opportunity, I went on vacation and the opportunity, like a guy at LinkedIn, a recruiter hit me up like, hey, FinTech, blah, blah, blah. And we talked and like, oh my God, I can go from like break, fix to build. That's huge. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't a computer science major and I wasn't a genius with a CCIE. Like somebody had to take a chance on me and this guy did. So I've been very lucky. But FinTech was great because again, AJ, like, I still felt like this cable guy who got lucky getting in the knock. Now I killed myself for 2 years getting my CCNA, but somehow or another I convinced myself, right? Like, oh, well, I don't belong here. I've been an imposter my whole life, right? Like,
yeah, you fast forwarded very quickly over like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I got my CCNA. Like that's sneezing at that.
Well,
Andy, what are you talking about?
But the reason I'm harping on this imposter syndrome and not feeling good enough for better things and all that is because when we do fast forward to this conversation I had with my current triple skip level Mike, he basically destroyed, for the first time in my life, he destroyed imposter syndrome for me. And I don't think it'll ever come back. And it's based on a book I'm going to share with you. And I'd like to give a couple of them away when we release this to a couple people because it just completely changed my view of myself and the world and like what's possible. But anyway, FinTech was great because it was a ton more money and a ton more responsibility. Mm-hmm. And now I'm a real network engineer building and maintaining infrastructure. I'm not just looking at Spectrum opening tickets,
Yeah.
But
it was, I feel like it was like a big peg gap, right? Like, you were from the knock and then you went to your FinTech job and you were doing all kinds of WAN stuff. And I feel like it was a boost in the actual technical part of your chops.
Big time. My first job they gave me, I had to add a static NAT to a router. I had no idea. Like, what? How the hell do I do that?
That's awesome.
To a bank that's like production, like but it was also scary, Lex, because like I had never done it. The CCNA taught me what NAT was, but
no, I'm with you. It sounds terrifying for the first time. Yeah,
right. Absolutely. But that's what you got to go through, right? So anyway, FinTech was great.
Weren't you doing stuff with frame relay too? Like converting frame relay to MPLS.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I had to convert a bunch of frame relay states to MPLS. And again, because I was new and I didn't understand the technology, like people have to take a chance on you when you're new, but you're going to break stuff. And I broke a big client. It was a big deal. And because I didn't understand tunnel timers and overwriting existing policies and blah, blah, blah. I didn't know you could break something and have it take 24 hours to actually break. Because of the 24-hour tunnel time. You learn, there's all kinds of landmines you can step on. Yeah. But anyway, FinTech was a dream job. We just bought a house and got married. We had a 6-month-old son. And all of a sudden, I'm now making enough money that like we can put him in the nicer daycare. And like, we can start putting money away for his college. So it was like life-changing job, life-changing money. And that was great. Fast forward a couple years, I'm working a lot of maintenance windows. We were a small team, so I'm on call every third week. Stuff's always breaking, so I'm always getting called at night. I worked 23 Sunday maintenance windows that one year. I remember telling you guys. At one point, we can only work Sundays. So I worked 23 Sundays. And we're talking like 4-hour windows, like 11P to like 4 or 5A.
Oh, brutal.
My brain is mush for like at least a day.
And I'm guessing you were
two.
Salaried and you weren't compensated for that extra time.
Totally salaried. No, I mean, I work something out. I got some comp time, right? Like if you work 4 hours on Sunday, you can take it off another day. And I mean, we work something out, right? But that was my idea. It wasn't my manager's. I was like, hey, can we do something here? He's like, oh yeah, sure. My buddy Fortijeff gave me that idea because he was doing it at SunGuard. But in any case, the Comcast stuff was great. The NOC was great. FinTech was great because they were big steps up. But all the maintenance windows. And then they said, well, it doesn't have to be Sundays anymore. We can work during the week. Well, that sounded good, but then I was working 2 or 3 nights a week on top of working, all day and super busy. We had a big merger, which meant we had all these new technologies to learn and roll out. And so it was a lot of stress for not any more money, really. And then COVID hit and my health issue manifested. And I think we talked about it in the mental health episode. I was not the father, husband, friend, son I wanted to be when COVID hit because I was tired and my head hurt and I was stressed out at work and the kids are in here every 5 minutes. how are you supposed to do network engineering being interrupted every 5 minutes? I read Cal Newport's Deep Work. Knowledge workers need extended periods of uninterrupted concentration to work on and solve problems and create solutions. Every 10 minutes, somebody was in here. You know what I mean? So anyway, why did I wind up leaving FinTech? I was burnout and I was having health issues, and there didn't seem, any way out of that.
It wasn't a temporary thing, right? Like it maybe was pitched that way in the beginning, like, oh, we just got to get through this, and once everything's all merged, we'll go back to like normal life, and normal life never came back.
Or was it even pitched that way?
Yeah, and maybe they didn't even mean for it to be that way, right?
Yeah.
Like,
see,
who knows?
Yeah, and I never want to be in a position where I'm talking bad on an ex-employer, right? So like they have a job to do, and they have but like they have a job to do. They have shareholders. They have a stock price. They have a board, right? Like,
sure, of course.
They all have a job that's different than my job, and I think one of the harder parts was senior leadership would say one thing: "We're all in this together. We don't want you to work yourself to death. We don't want you to be a hero." But then my boss is handing me more and more and more and more work. So to me, it seemed like there was a disconnect. Like, okay, you don't want me to be a hero, but I'm drowning and you're just throwing more on top of me. So again, it just starts to make you feel a certain kind of way about the culture you're in. Like, is that all just lip service on stage so people can go rah, rah, but then the day-to-day soldier on the front line, he's just getting hammered. And it doesn't really seem like they feel their actions don't align with their words, right? That's basically what I'm trying. And they have their own job, and I get it, right? Like, it's not a judgment. I'm not saying they're bad people, but their job and leadership is different than my job. And the more they give me, the more we can do, the more successful the company is, right? The happier the clients are. Like it's a weird dynamic in companies, and culture stuff. Yeah. How do you treat your people well, but still be super productive and get stuff done? Like, I don't know,
Well, it kind of, what bothers me about that is the company is kind of, because I've seen that before too. The company's feels to me like putting the burden of like, relax, chill out, on the employee when like you're not being given the tools and resources to be able to do that, or they're just taking away those tools and resources, but taking away your time and your mental energy, and I don't like that when a company doesn't, when the company should allow for that time for you if they want you to relax, right? If they want you to actually be in a good mental space, don't sit there and say, take 5 minutes to meditate every day and then like not give their employees 5 minutes, right? I could go on a whole rant about that, but
totally.
Basically, like you block out your calendar, and then they're like, "Oh, but you need to push that out because we have to have this meeting," or that kind of thing.
This was the job that I was always triple booked.
Oh my gosh!
I got you.
And everybody was. You said repeatedly was always one of those places where like everything's a priority, and if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority.
Yeah.
You can't,
how do you even handle that? Like, if you're actually triple booked, what do you do? Are you doing like 2 maintenances at once? What are you doing? And then like talking to someone?
It's a good question, right? I mean, I don't know. It
sucks.
Yeah, that's culture, right? And there were good people, and I liked them all, and I'd happily barbecue for them and have them at my house for a pool party or something. But the culture I was in was just untenable. So I think that's what the migraine when my health issues manifested from all the stress I was under. Once I got out of that migraine cycle thing I was in, I remember thinking like, I can't do this anymore. Like this, what am I doing? Right. Because that voice in my head is like, this is the only job you're going to have. And listen, I had interviewed, right? Like, I don't know if I was overpaid for my experience because I had a bunch of interviews and nobody could really give me enough to jump. Every place I talked to, in my mind, I'm like,
tough.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to need 20% to jump because I don't have to leave and I have a job and I have a bunch of comp time. And it's rough, but, and I don't know if 20% is going to make me any happier, but let me try something else out, right? Like I need a change. This is hard. And I couldn't get anybody to give me, even enough money to like jump. So, I started to look at TME positions because I love content creation with this team. And this guy on Twitter, Wes Kennedy, I had wound up talking to, and he jumped on the phone with me and he started to tell me about the TME role. And he felt that I could do it.
Before you finish that thought, Andy, for the people listening, what is a TME?
Oh, sorry. Technical marketing engineer. So my understanding is they basically create all kinds of content for tech companies, right? Like there's, if you look at like I just saw it the other day, if you look at like whatever that Juno's JNCIA day one guide is that like you get if you go on Juniper Learning, the woman Yasmin Lara, we know like her name is on there. So like it's somebody who helped create this document that learners use to like learn Junos. And I know they do like,
cool.
they'll do, whatever it is, like white papers, podcasts, instructional videos. Yeah. Some of them work for like Pluralsight, right? Like there'll be content creators for different,
sure.
They'll
go to
posts.
like, industry conferences and present the product there. They'll go to Tech Field Day.
Right.
Stuff
so like
that.
all those Tech Field Days and NFDs you've been to, right? They're mostly TMEs that present, right?
They're very pensive as well. All of them.
So because I love content creation with y'all, I was like, oh, wow, this would be great. And I started pursuing that. And
so I have to bring this up now that we've made it through this, now that you've made it through that process and you are where you are. You were going through the job hunting process and you were looking at these TME jobs, and you, for some reason, you didn't want to share with us that you were applying to all these TME jobs because you felt like we were your competition. And I think I can safely say for everybody, like if we know where you're applying, we're not going to go apply to where you're applying and try to steal something out from under you. It just,
says you.
Yeah.
Tim says you.
What are we, some kind of jerks?
I'm pretty sure I told AJ a place I applied to, and he applied like 2 days later and was like, oh yeah, I talked to so-and-so. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
I remember hearing this story.
But no, I mean, right. Listen, there's enough. I mean, we talked about it with the inclusion episodes and conversations. Like there's enough room at the table for everybody.
Yeah.
But when I talked to Wes and found out what they do and the kind of living they make, I'm like, holy crap. Like I can't tell anybody about this until I land this job, because, if I do, like in my mind, AJ's more technically skilled than I am, and he's got computer science and coding and 8,200 certs. Like if it's me and AJ, for that decision, I'm like, well, God, I can't have more competition here. I don't need to compete with AJ. So
I only have 10 or 12 certs, Andy. You don't have to worry about it.
But I was trying to play it, close, whatever they say, like tight to the vest or whatever. Because I really wanted and needed that job, and I'm like, man, let me land this before. So anyway, that was. Thanks for bringing that up, AJ. I appreciate that.
Well, see now I'm a little disappointed that AJ didn't swoop in and steal your job.
No.
So
I think this
that would have been a really good dynamic for the team here.
It would be a bit of a different show, I think, Dan.
We just need like a dibs system. That's it.
Dibs.
Like if everybody, just post your job rec and then be like dibs, whoever says it first, and that's it. We're done.
There you go. I like it.
Well, it's interesting. I had a 6 interview process with a particular vendor for a TME spot, and I didn't get it. Yeah, 6 interviews. Yeah.
Is that normal? Can we just, sorry, but that's
I feel
a
like
lot.
it is now.
I've never had.
Now that I've heard, I've heard all these people, like I've had 4 interviews for this, and I only had 1.
Hang on, real quick. I'm really sorry to sidetrack, but like, can we define interview? Because I feel like some people talk about an interview as like, okay, each time I talk to one person for however long, that's an interview. Versus like a block of time when you're talking to people, is that one interview? Like what?
Right.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, Andy, was that 6 different interviews, or is it 6 different people at one block of time? Now we're about to get the truth.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to invalidate your experience at all, but I'm so curious.
I want to give you an honest answer. I think it was 6 different people at 6 different times.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's intense.
I guess I consider that 6
and
different.
And it was in a week. They were like, we have to make our decision by Friday. All candidates have to be in. So like, I'm working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh hell, all right, I'll take a lunch here, lunch there. Like I tried to make it work.
God rested on the 7th day.
Yeah, I'm working a maintenance. All right, I'm working a maintenance window tonight. Maybe I'll take an extra hour today for this thing. So, but the reason
I just want to go off on a tangent for a second because this is one thing that really grinds my gears, right? Like,
oh God,
you're trying to better yourself, you're trying to move on, and I get that it's hard to like, talk to your employer about that, but why is it hard to talk to your employer about that? Like, do you know how many times like, I'm going to be late for work. I got to take my son to a doctor's appointment. And then, I got to go pick my son up early because he needs a follow. And it's just like, at one point, like my boss is just like, are your kids okay? Because you go to
how many sons do you have? What?
Yeah. And so it's just frustrating that we have to go through all this like hiding and lying. And then like, sooner or later, your boss is probably picking up what you're throwing down. Like, when you finally go to them and say, hey, I'm giving my notice. And they're like, oh, geez, I thought you were just going to a lot of doctor's appointments. I didn't realize you were, job hunting.
We were going to send flowers. We didn't know if they were okay.
Well, I really wanted that TME spot, but what's interesting is I heard a lot of red flags in those 6 interviews of things that were happening at my FinTech spot that I was like, oh man, this.
Yeah. Do tell. Spill the tea.
Just, you hear things, it just sounded like it was a similar environment of, too much work, not enough people, like the one manager's like, yeah, I really work hard to try not to burn my people out, but it's really tough sometimes. Like, whoa.
And I think we're done.
Oh yeah. Right. So anyway, I wanted a TME role. Wes put me in touch with his network of people. Now I should back up and say that this guy, Sean Legan, who's on my team, he had posted on Twitter. This all happened through Twitter, by the way. So back to the branding and like social media.
Twitter.
Twitter's the new LinkedIn.
Best thing you can do for your career.
Who knew, right?
You shitbirds. Here we go.
Yeah. You can do whatever you want on Twitter, get a job, whatever.
So Sean had posted like however many months ago it was a long thread about how he pivoted from network engineering to vendor life. And he shared a bunch of input, like, about how great it's been and blah, blah, blah. And then he posted a couple job openings at Juniper. And he said, hey, my DMs are open. If you have any questions, job posting barely tells the whole story. Let me know. So I started talking to him. We hopped on the phone. And this is what like blows me away about the networking community. Like this guy, Wes, who was a stranger, we hop on the phone, talk for an hour. And he's like, listen, I'm going to put you in touch with my network of people. I want to help you. And then all those people jumped on the phone. So even I'm talking to Sean.
Who's Wes? Wes who? I'm sorry.
Wes Kennedy is a TME. He just took a job at NVIDIA. But he's, he was just a guy on Twitter, right? That I think I had asked one day, like, hey, any TMEs out there? Like, I need to talk. Mm-hmm. And, he reached out, hopped on the phone and was like, here's all my people, man. Like, I think you'd be great.
Hang on.
Wow.
I got to pause the show. I got to go hit Twitter real quick.
Yeah. Hold on. I gotta beat AJ.
Yep. But I talked to Sean. Sean put out there, right? It's all about like putting yourself out there, I guess. And he put out there, like, here's what I did. It's been amazing. Reach out. We have openings. I talked to him. He's like, yeah, put your application and let me know. I didn't hear anything. So then a month or two later, I talked to Wes. Wes puts me in touch with his network. One of the guys was this one guy, Matt, who I was going to talk to about a TME. Turns out Matt left Juniper, so I can't talk to him anymore. There's this other guy, Matt Oswalt, who was at Juniper, and I talked to him. And I think a day or two later, I somehow got in touch with Mike Bouchang. So I credit Matt Oswalt. I mean, Sean made me aware of the position and got an application in. Mm-hmm. Matt, as soon as I talked to Matt, he was like, all right, let me talk to somebody. You'll be hearing from somebody. And like 3 days later, I'm on the phone with Mike Bouchang, who's again, this, very senior, very successful, very intelligent guy who just, blew me away. So I get on the phone with Mike. We're talking to DMs on Twitter, and he's like, listen, let's just hop on the phone and talk. This isn't an interview. Let's get to know each other. Let me tell you what I'm thinking, and we'll see how it goes. So, we're talking and he says something to the effect of like, yeah, like Russ White is under me. And like, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like the Russ White, like doctorate, like I think he's written all these Cisco Press books. I know Russ from Network Collective, right? But he's a brilliant guy who's every time on Network Collective, they talk about a protocol. Russ would be like, what do you want to know? I can tell you anything. Like the guy, I think he wrote protocols or something. But anyway, when he tells me that like, people like Russ White are on his team, I'm like, Mike, again, my imposter syndrome. I'm like, just so you know, like I'm no Russ White, man. Like, I mean, I understand networking and I can make stuff work, but like, I don't want you to think that you're getting a genius here. And what he said next, honestly, I think changed the course of the rest of my life because it changed how I view my strengths and weaknesses. And my imposter syndrome has always been fueled by me focusing on my weaknesses. And corporate cult, like we focus on weaknesses, right? Like areas of opportunity. Like they find out what you're not good at work, and then they send you to a bunch of classes to try to focus on crap you're not good at so that you can try to get better at stuff you're not good at. Like, so there's this book I'll tell you about, and I'm probably not giving it justice. But anyway, he tells me, listen, Andy, he said something like, your level of confidence is incongruent with what I know about you. You're putting yourself down on this call. They're not matching up. I know of you. I know you. And you're putting yourself down on this call. He said, wherever you wound up working, even if it's not at Juniper, I want you to hear something. He said, we all have a handful of things we're good at. They're our strengths. And there's a book called Now Know Your Strengths. And the book is all about how it was this guy in the 70s, Don Clifton, who was a psychologist, strengths-based psychology, and his whole thing. And again, I won't do it justice, but by focusing, what they did was they went around and they talked to and interviewed all the most successful, surgeons and fighter pilots and professional athletes and all, software, like whatever, CEOs, CTOs, whatever. They talked to the most successful people on the planet and tried to find a common thread. What every single one of them said was that they focus on their strengths. They found out what they were good at. That's what they put their energy into, and they excelled, which is opposite of usually what we're taught. So what Mike said is, the context of where you are isn't important. What is important is you're very good at a handful of things. You can take that anywhere at any company and succeed. I'm like, okay, I've never heard that before. You're smart. I guess that's true. So anyway, we talk and the rest is kind of history, right? Like he's like, great, I think you'd be a great fit. Let me put you in touch with, my director, who put me in touch with the manager, and long and short of it, they offer me this job. But I went and bought this book, and in the book there's this assessment you can take online, and I took this assessment, and it gives you like your 5 core strengths, like things that, and they're obvious to me now, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh, the things that I'm naturally good at are why Mike is bringing me in. He's not looking for a Russ White. Like my whole tech career in my mind has been like, I don't have enough certs. I'm not smart enough. I need my CCMP. I need my CCIE. Like I need to be able to answer all these questions. Now I got to learn automation. Like it's always been this never ending climb of like, I need to learn all this stuff so I can get to the mountaintop. Right. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of flipped all that. And he's like, no, that's not what it's not what very successful people in business and sports and, that's not what they do. So anyway, the book totally changed my outlook on myself, and I've been focusing on my strengths ever since we talked.
What are some of your strengths, Andy?
How high up was barbecue?
Barbecue had to be on that list.
Barbecue data analysis.
Whoa. Yeah.
I like it.
So one of them, it's here and I won't bore you with all the details, but one of them is empathy, right? From the time I've been a kid, I can feel other people, like what other people are feeling. I know it sounds woo-woo and crazy, but like I can remember in 6th grade going down to the city with my mom. We went to the art museum and I cried for 2 days because I didn't understand why the homeless people didn't have anywhere to go and why we couldn't bring them home and help them. Like ever since I've been a kid, if somebody's in pain, I can feel it. If my wife is mad, I feel it. Like, so
oh no, that's I feel that too when my wife's mad at me.
Right.
Same.
But I have my best friend Zach. He's a sociopath. He doesn't feel anything anybody feels. Like, now, it makes him a really good cop.
You just called him out.
Oh, he knows. He knows. I call him a sociopath all the time. He knows. Everybody who knows Zach knows he's a sociopath. But
he's aware.
But he's the perfect cop. He can go do that job and see the worst of the world.
Making it sound good.
Well, listen, we need
He's a
people.
sociopath. He's the perfect cop.
Well, we need people who can do those kind of jobs, right? Like, if I was a cop,
but hang on. You're talking about like experiencing like the bad things and like not maybe intaking so much trauma, right? You're not talking in terms of like being a horrible person or something. Okay,
No.
I just want to clarify that. I know what you mean.
If you're an empath, you will feel and absorb all the awfulness of the world if you have that kind of awful job.
You carry
it's
that emotion.
Why most cops are alcoholics and killed them. There's a lot of suicide in drug and alcohol because unless you're a sociopath, you internalize all that, you bring it all home, and then you project it onto your own wife and kids and like, oh my God, what terrible thing's going to happen to my loved ones someday. And I grew up in a family of cops, so I can talk about this and not be totally clueless and an idiot. So in any case, empathy is one of them. How is that helpful? Well, I've been a network engineer. I know that pain. Now I'm going to be at a vendor and I can be on the other side of the table. And because I know the pain on the other side, or maybe I'm at an NFD, AJ, and somebody, I'm helping with a presentation, right? And when somebody says something across the table, like, I feel you, bro. Like,
you've been there.
I know what you're saying, not only from experience, but like, I'm in the room with you. I feel what you're putting down. Like, I won't take it as an attack because I'm an evil vendor and you're whatever. Like,
right.
I get what you're saying. So anyway, empathy is one of them. And they have all these different terms for them. I love to solve problems. There's a term for that. It makes for a good network engineer. And now I'm, with a vendor solving problems. I love to learn. I have an insatiable curiosity. I always have. That's apparently useful and helpful in tech in different roles. You know what I mean? I think we're all curious, right? You got to go Google and figure it out. So
sure.
I don't know if any of this has been entertaining for anybody listening, but that's kind of been my story of, why did I leave FinTech? I had to. I'm pretty sure I was, if I stayed, I think it was going to start like shortening my lifespan. And it wasn't that company. It wasn't that company, right? But it was just the culture I was in and what was happening in the world, and circumstances presented themselves that, Auto Macho that we had on loves it there. He's thrilled. He's, and we're just in different parts of our life.
Hey, A1 fans, AJ here to remind you about NordVPN.com. NordVPN will help secure you wherever you go. I use NordVPN on all of my personal devices. Whenever I'm out and about, I just go into the NordVPN app, hit Quick Connect, and away I go. Nice and secure. Don't have to worry about prying eyes, anybody looking at my connection. If I choose to go work from a coffee shop locally, or even while I'm traveling, if I bring my personal devices, I will use NordVPN to help keep things safe and secure. I'm using NordVPN right now, and there's no degradation in my signal. Everything looks good when you guys watch us on the live streams. So I can't say enough good things about NordVPN. They have some great additional services included with their VPN product. They'll scour the dark web for your credentials and see if they've been involved in any sort of hacks or anything. And then if they have, they'll let you know, and you can go change your passwords and do whatever you need to do to help keep yourself safe and secure. They also have a mode that will block any websites or ads known to possess malware, and they just have general ad blocking anyway, because who wants ads? As I record an ad. Anyway, if you want NordVPN, and you do, go to nordvpn.com/TAONE for the art of network engineering, and you can get a really great deal, 73% off 2 years plus 4 months free. So again, that's 73% off 2 years plus 4 months free of NordVPN. If you forget that URL, just go to nordvpn.com. At checkout, you can use the promo code TAONE NE for the art of network engineering. And we appreciate your support as well as NordVPN's support of the Art of Network Engineering podcast. Now back to the show.
Yeah, so that's one thing I wanted to bring up was earlier when you were talking about the late night windows or maintenance windows and that kind of stuff is, for me, I wouldn't enjoy that now, but I think my younger self would. Because my younger self didn't have a wife or a kid or, I was just doing my own thing. And so I feel like, and I also compare this with other jobs too. Look at like people who are implementation engineers that travel all the time, that they're gone every single week. They're traveling around.
Yeah, not so much anymore.
Well, I mean, AJ, I was going to say you don't travel as much anymore though, but there's people out there that like literally their job is to go install a rack of equipment and then they go to another place and install a rack of equipment. And I've talked to a few of these people, right? Because they were installing a rack of equipment in our place, but they're younger, they don't have families and stuff. That's in it. Looking back on on my career, I think I would have enjoyed that at a time.
Yeah.
To where if I was going to these different places, I'm a big, foodie kind of guy. So like if I could eat food at these different, these different cultures and different areas and whatnot, I think that'd be really cool. But me now, I would not want to do that. Right. I don't want to be away from my kid. I don't want to be away from my wife, that kind of thing. So I wanted to bring that up to make a point that just because it didn't work for you, that doesn't mean that maybe someone else might not like that. And I'm glad you said that Automacho loves it. He loves that kind of work. So it's just a different way to look at it. Right.
Like, and there's different life, life periods we go through, right? Like he's young, he's not married, doesn't have any kids. And not to say that, but it's easier to do those nights and to be grounded down. And listen, he's just being younger, you have more energy, right?
Right.
So,
well, like kids, I don't understand. You could send them to bed at like 11 o'clock at night and they're going to be up at 5:30 in the morning, like freaking ready to roll. And if you have to be up till 4 or 5 in the morning doing a window and then you got to turn around and get kids ready and everything like that. Like, that's rough.
It's not a long game.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I don't know. I wanted to say that earlier, but you were moving pretty good. So I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah. It's a really good point.
Andy, I want to talk the industry. So did you have a pretty good idea that your next jump was going to be to a vendor, or was it you knew or had a high level idea of the role you wanted to get into, and that's kind of what pushed you toward wanting to work for a vendor?
So no, I didn't know I was going to a vendor, but you remind me of something else I wanted to bring up, that every big jump I've made in my career has been a risky, huge leap of faith.
Okay.
There's no guarantee that I'm going to succeed where I'm at here, right? When I left Comcast for FinTech, I had no idea. I broke something big like 4 months in. Their CEO got off with our CEO. Like I could have been fired if they didn't shield me, which would have been really bad. So my jump from Comcast to FinTech and my jump from FinTech to Juniper, they've both included risk and a very, I mean, it's a calculated risk, but I don't know anything about product management, right? Like I'm reading books and trying but they also didn't bring me in to be Mr. Product Manager. That's my title, but they really want a technical person who has integrity, that's been a network engineer who can help them make better products, right? They want to get more market share. They want happier customers. They want so bringing people like us in, I think helps that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, because the pain.
Intimately. We all, right? Like everybody on this panel. I mean, we all know that damn pain. We've all hit that bug. And I've complained about every vendor on the planet because of reasons, right? Like, We got to upgrade the entire fleet in a week because of some bug. Like, oh my God, why can't these people write good code? Why? and apparently there's reasons. And what I'm learning about in this Scrum book and Agile and Scrum versus Waterfall is like, if you go with Waterfall and take 5 years to build software, by the time you're done, people aren't going to want it or need it. But with this Agile kind of Scrum mentality, it's like, just get it out and iterate. Let's get out a usable product and then get feet. Well, no, but as a user of it, Dan, it sucks. But that's how the entire modern world. Toyota started doing this in the 70s. They all stole it from Toyota, and they're the most successful. Yeah, they're the most successful car company because they do this like Scrum methodology, which is, and it's fascinating. It's this audio book I'm listening to. My boss turn me on to. But yeah, Tim, I didn't know I was going to a vendor. When I was looking at TME roles, vendors primarily hire them, so I thought I was what happened.
I'm sorry, I was reading the chat.
No, I didn't see the chat.
Tim said something.
I haven't looked at the chat.
My bad. I apologize.
No, you're good. What one?
So Andy, before you answer my first question, I want to ask you another one. Sorry, squirrel moment completely.
I thought I answered your first question. Did I not? I meant to.
No, you did. Okay. You did. I think you had another thought, but you did answer it. So let me cut you off. I obviously don't want you to get into the math of it, but you talked about taking multiple jumps and taking risks, and that they were all calculated risks. At a high level, how do you calculate that?
Risk reward.
Okay.
Like anything,
Pros and cons list.
Yeah, like in the thick of it, what were you? I just told you I don't want you to get into the math of it, but are you just thinking through things in your head? Are you actually jotting things down? Are you assigning values to things? Am I overthinking it? What is it?
You're not overthinking it. I don't think I wrote anything down. I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to spend $50 on Amazon, I'm going to spend an hour researching. Like, well, I don't want to get a crappy thing that's going to break. Let me look at reviews. But then some reviews, they pay people for reviews. So that's crap. So then let me look at consumer reports. Let me ask around. Like, I spend way too much time researching and trying to make an informed decision. So, if I can't spend $50 on Amazon without an hour of mental torture, like, for my career, it's just who I am, right? I want as much data as I can to, I don't want to lose my job and be out of work with a wife and kids and mortgage and college funds and but at the same time, fortune favors the bold. Like, if you take risks in life, my experience has been, if you can take a calculated risk, so far it's been working out, right? Like, I have no complaints. If I was stuck in imposter syndrome and stayed as a cable guy because I can never do better than this, I'm not good enough to do anything else. If I listened to my colleagues in cable who said the CCNA is a waste of time, you'll never do anything with it, which they said, if I listened to all that and stayed there and didn't take a risk, I'd still be making, I'd be up to maybe 60 grand a year now and, beating my body up and getting
wondering what all you could have done in those years.
I never would have met you fine people. You know what I mean? So yeah, how does anybody, I guess we all have different risk aversions, right? Like, I jumped out of a perfectly good plane, Tim. So I don't know if I'm the best guy to.
Andy had a ponytail on at the same time. So that tells you a little bit more about where his head was at. So before I was married with kids, I feel most alive when I'm taking a risk, right? I ski.
I'm one of those kind of guys.
Like, Dan, we were talking earlier about, I don't know if it was us or I was talking to somebody at work, but I ski the double black diamonds. I ski the steepest, most dangerous hills because to me, that's...
Wait, you actually do that? What? I got to see this.
I've been skiing since I was 6.
I thought you were joking.
But
I'll go up to blues. That's about all I'll do. Though.
So I like adrenaline, I guess. But you get older and you get responsibility and you try not to be an idiot anymore. But part of me is excited about this risk, Tim, because it kind of gets my juices flowing in a certain sense, but it's a big step in my career.
Tickles his fancy.
What if you could make a crap ton more money and get rid of maintenance windows and on call and never have to get another cert as long as you lived? Like, How does that sound, right? Now, it's oversimplifying it, and I'm talking to 4 network engineers who make their bread and butter by getting certifications, learning all the things, being on call, and doing maintenance windows. So it's not probably a popular thing to say to this particular audience. But for me, who was burnt out on the job, and I wasn't sure if it was the company or the damn job, like, I don't want to get another cert. Now, right now I'm working on a cert. So, right. Like, so, you know what I mean? I'm being totally transparent with you. Like, I don't want another cert.
Kind of went the other way with that one.
Yeah. Weren't expecting that.
I'm using it as a learning plan now, where before it's like, well, I have to get my CCMP to get a better job, or I have to learn automation because I'm never going to be able to get out of here. Or
but
maybe
before you felt like you had to, now it's a choice.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of nice. And you know, one thing I don't want to leave out, because I know we're getting at the end here, we're probably over, but during that time in my life when you know I wasn't doing so good, somebody turned me on to this guy Wayne Dyer, and he had this series called The Power of Intention, and basically what his whole thing was, you know, he's like one of these guru dudes, right? Like, don't, you know, it's kind of woo woo, and you'll be like, oh my God, Andy, but he was a smart dude, and he had this thing called The Power of Intention, which was basically like, you know, you can, what do you intend to like do with your life? Like, what it's not planning so much, but it's pretty much staying open to like the possibilities. Right. And like, I do it with my wife. Like, she's more like conservative minded, and like, you know, we got to be safe and like stay in the thing and all. And I keep showing her like, well, I believe anything's possible, and I always have. And I think that stops that glass ceiling from existing. That like, you know, like it's even with salary negotiations. I never in a million years thought I would ever make $100,000 a year. Right. And I did as a network engineer. I never thought in a million years I'd be making what I'm making now. When the guy asked me what I was looking to make, because I have a sales background and I know how to negotiate, I did not give him a number. And this is a video I want to make because it's really helpful for people like us. So I gave him my canned response, which everybody accepts, and then they start talking. And when he started talking and said a number, I blacked out. Like, I have no idea what he said after that, because the number he said just short-circuited my brain. I might have had a mini stroke real quick. Like, because again, I believe anything's possible, and my life keeps showing me that, like, if you don't place limits on yourself and you take some risk, amazing things can happen. So that's been what's been happening to me. And if you don't believe in yourself, no one will. If you don't believe anything's possible, you will put limits on yourself. And this is just me kind of just telling you what my life has been. I'm not saying go read The Power of Intention and, you know, whatever, but it made an impression on me. You know, like, people give you stuff and it just somehow resonates with you for some reason. And so like when this Mike guy told me what he told me about strengths, it destroyed imposter syndrome for the first time in my life. And then when this person showed me this Power of Intention stuff, which is free, like it's just a book he wrote, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I can do, you know, when you're a kid, they tell you could be anything. And then you go to college and you fail out of computer science, right? Like, I mean, that's what happened to me. So I'm like, well, it's bullshit. I can't be anything I want to be. But as we've learned on the show, there are many paths to the same destination. So just because I failed out of computer science doesn't mean I got to climb ladders the rest of my life. I just got to hang in there, keep plugging away, take some calculated risks, and believe that everything's going to be awesome. I just got to keep doing the work, pay attention, and you know, just keep on keeping on. So, you know, I think we all limit ourselves to a certain extent based on reasons. And if you do that, you know, how high can you get, right? Like, if you're like me and you don't believe, you know, that there's anything better for you, and you're an imposter and they made a mistake hiring you, and like, you're just lucky to have what you have, you'll probably stay in a crappy situation forever. I mean, even relationships, right? You know, people who are like, why are they together? You know what I mean? Like, what's wrong with them? I mean, part of it is like, they probably don't think they can do any better. Like, well, you know, he's not all that bad. I mean, you know, he's nice 30% of the time. And like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? You're awesome. Get out of there. Like,
calm down, Andy. My wife might hear you.
Don't limit yourself is all the point of all that rambling, because we all do it to some extent, and we're all going to be dead soon, right? We just have one life and it's short, and your life is a result of the decisions you make. So you gotta stay open-minded, I think, to possibilities. I mean, look at Lex. She's working on freaking rockets. Like, did you ever think that was going to happen? I mean, that's crazy. Like, it's amazing.
Fuck no, right? I didn't think that was ever going to happen. Are you kidding me?
That's amazing.
No, thank you. That's really sweet of you to say. The one thing that's occurring to me as you're talking about this, Andy, is I don't know who said this first, or I don't have like a poignant quote, but I just have heard this lately. You know, we're all afraid to fail, I guess. Like, that's a very common thing, but a lot of people might actually unconsciously be afraid of what happens if they succeed, right? And that sounds kind of like hokey a little bit, but
it's true.
I think that's something that has applied to me. Like, I won't go into it too far, but like, I've stared down the barrel of like something amazing and been like, I don't deserve this. This is not for me. I can't do this. And it's like, but they're giving it to you. And it's like, but I can't, so you have to, keep that in mind. Like, don't be afraid. What's going to happen if you succeed? Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. If it's the right time, it's the right time, let it happen. Go for it.
Do you want to hear a funny story? You just reminded me of.
Yeah.
So my sister's this gorgeous, tall girl. She could have been a Ford model, didn't want to, blah, blah, blah. And she was at an airport as a flight attendant, and her and Brad Pitt start, right? And my mom's with her. They were both flight attendants. So my mom's telling me this story. And Brad Pitt starts like, giving my sister some time, right? And she blew him off. And afterwards, my mom was like, what are you doing? And my sister said, now this is coming from my mom, so I believe her. She said that she could never be with a guy as attractive as Brad Pitt because she'd always be worried that, he'd like be cheating or, like the whole world wants him and she couldn't. But you talk about like a limiting belief, right? Like maybe my sister could have at least dated Brad Pitt. Like, why wouldn't you, right? I date the guy and I'm hetero, but like he's beautiful, right? So I'm just saying that to say like, you can really, the possibilities are endless, right? And like you said, you can look at this and be like, it is scary, right? Like, yes.
Believe that you're good enough for it. Like, you just have to, or you will fail. You'll set yourself up to fail if you don't at least have, that seed of belief in you. I can do this.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Scary,
yeah. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody will. And you will continue to bring the wrong people in your life. And I mean, right, this isn't like a psychology class or whatever, but
we're touching on it and it's valid.
Yeah, but right? I mean, I have it, right. I have experience with that in my own life. I mean, you attract what you put out there, and so anyway,
Absolutely.
but it's an inside job, right? Like with the mental health episode. I mean, I've been in therapy for a long time, and a lot of that stuff really, really helps me look at my patterns and what I'm doing and why, and like, and then change, right? It's really all about, change. I don't know anybody that's born perfect and just figures it all out, knocks it out of the park with everything. So like, it's an inside job. We're always kind of working on ourselves, and, none of this would have happened if I hadn't been working on myself for so long. Because I always believed that I wasn't good enough and that good things weren't for me. And I kept attracting, goofballs, because I was a goofball. So,
Andy, I gotta say, it's like, so, at the beginning of this episode, you when you talked about how happy you are here, like what you're doing now, and like, the smile on your face, you're just like radiating, you're very happy. We can tell. And like, it's just, I want to say I'm so happy for you. Yeah.
It is not a myth.
Lex, you joined at the right time, because apparently these poor bastards were dealing with Randy for like 20 months. Just this.
Okay. So Randy and Zandy.
Yeah. Huh? Yeah. It was get off my lawn. There were memes about me. They were going to make a t-shirt. I was a grumpy old man. And, apparently when you're and listen, again, I don't want to beat up on the last place I was at, and COVID had a big thing to do with it. But, it wasn't for me. you know, if you're in a bad situation in life, it could be your work, it could be a relationship, whatever. I mean, it's going to bleed into all aspects. And the podcast was the most fun I had during that whole time. But yeah, I guess apologies to these guys and the listeners that, you know, I wasn't my best self. I was going through some shit and it was hard. And, you know, I wasn't as, I guess, patient as I should have been. I mean, Dan and I just fought every episode for like at least a year. Like, you know,
wait, that's stopped.
I hope so.
I was fighting.
I was hoping it'd continue.
Yeah,
I'm sure it will.
See, Andy,
Sure
that's where the apology doesn't need to exist because we were seriously concerned about you. I mean, it's not like we were sitting here thinking, "Oh, this guy, I can't believe you just keep."
Were you guys planning an intervention?
Having bad. Well, we've got the other group chat. Dan is very vocal in there. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Damn, I want to see this.
No, but seriously, Andy, and we've said it 100 times now. We've been able to see this transition, and that's how we know that it's been the right move on so many different levels. It's not just professional, right? Because you've felt like, and I don't want you to dig up skeletons, but I think you've even said that members of your family have even brought this up to you that, hey, you seem a little different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's been cool to see.
I can't tell you how many times my wife told me, you need to get out of there. I mean, she has to live with me, right? We both work from home, like the last place. I mean, probably for a year. She's like, you got to get out of there. Like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know. I'm doing my best.
Really happy for you, dude.
Yeah. Thank you. It's good. What's going on in the chat? Am I getting beat up? Are they like,
No. It's all
your
good.
vendor
all
evil?
They're talking about your hairline.
How beautiful!
I got a good hairline. What are you talking about? Come on, man.
It's called Dapper.
Andy, just promises something. Don't lose that soapbox completely. All right. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
You gotta
I'm
drag
hoping
that
it gets
thing out
taller,
every once in a while,
man.
right?
Yeah.
And you're doing elbow drops off of it or
yeah.
something.
Oh, yeah.
I have
I wanna
strong
hear those
opinions.
opinions.
Yeah, I think, you know, for our meetup, I think I should bring a soapbox.
Oh, I think you should.
Yep.
Just, you know.
And then when we do our show, you stand on that.
Just stand on my
Just
go stand on my soapbox for the episode. I think it'd be great.
It's like a token ring, right? So you get the soapbox, then AJ gets the soapbox. You know,
You can only talk if you're standing on the soapbox.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, I want to thank you for peeling back the onion with us. I know that it can be difficult to, talk details about some of this stuff, but I think you navigated the situation very well. And I do believe that a lot of people listening to this are going to connect with a lot of what you're saying about, either the situation they're in now or a situation they've been in, and give them some things to chew on and think about. So again, thank you very much for sharing all of this with us. And I'll just echo what everybody else has already said. It's nice to see you in a better place. I think that you shared some of what you were going through while you were going through it, but I do think that you were definitely carrying a lot of emotion that maybe you weren't even really aware of until now that you can leave it behind. So
yeah, it's a stark contrast.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing what you can endure. And then when you get out from under the weight, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Why did I do that for as long as I did?
Right. Well, I'd also like to thank our Patreons for hanging with us tonight, as we always do whenever we record an episode. If you're interested in joining the Patreon program, you can go to patreon.com/artofneteng and hang with us, ask questions, make fun of Dan, make fun of me. It's all that kind of stuff goes on in the chat while we're having a good time recording each and every week. And sometimes on the weekends at last minute notice. You never know when we're going to pop up.
Thanks, Lexie.
Lex, thank you for joining us.
Guys.
This is amazing. Dan,
yes.
Congratulations. This is going to be a really exciting 2022. I know we can't talk about everything going on behind the scenes, but there's some really cool stuff happening.
Agreed.
Yeah, the year just started,
guys.
and we're starting with a bang. This is great.
Hell yeah. I'm excited.
Pretty cool.
Excellent. Well, I think that puts a bow on it. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Thanks again, Andy, for sharing your story. And we'll see you back next week for another episode of The Art of Network Engineering.
Hey, keep an eye out for the Twitter poll to name Dan's unborn child.
Hey everyone, this is AJ. If you like what you heard today, then make sure you subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcatcher. Smash that bell icon to get notified of all of our future episodes. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Art of NetEng. That's Art of NetEng. You can also find us on the web at artofnetworkengineering.com, where we post all of our show notes. You can read blog articles from the co-hosts and guests, and also a lot more news and info from the networking world. Thanks for listening.